we went from a blue state to a red state. It was so different. Boise is a great city. Like, there's lots of things to do. It's really family oriented. You have more freedom. It's less crowded. You have more time. If you're kind of leaning toward the red side, where it's a red state, it's a very red state. If you kind of lean toward the blue state, Boise's a blue city. I'm a conservative person. And so, as long as Idaho stays conservative, I don't see myself leaving.
I've been an agent here for the last 7 years, and I'd love to use my local knowledge and expertise to help you make a plan to find the perfect home here in the Treasure Valley. If that's you and you're thinking of making that move, find my information down below, get a hold of me. I'd love to meet you and help you with your move to Idaho. How did you end up in Idaho? I know it's kind of a long roundabout story, but
How long do you have?
we got time. Do
How
you
much
have
time?
time is the question. I know you grew up in California. You met your wife in California?
In California, yeah.
What prompted you to leave?
We were in California. I was born and raised in a suburb of Los Angeles, so San Fernando Valley area.
Nice.
And I was there for 30 years before I moved. So grew up there and turned 30. I was a little over 30 when we moved out to La Grande, Oregon. So I met my wife in 2013.
Never heard of it.
Married? No, very few people have.
No, La Grande's a cool area. Small town for sure, though.
Yeah, so we met in 2013, married in 2014, moved away in 2015. Just boom, boom, boom. So
How'd you meet Mallory?
that's a crazy story. Not that crazy.
Yeah.
But she was in the car, and she was in her car, not my car, her car, in the parking lot. She was using her visor, put on some makeup, and I was passing by. And like, she'd been working at the school that I was working at, so we'd seen each other a few times, said hi. That was about it. So I didn't make an intro. So I said,
But she at least knew you weren't a
she
complete
knew who I
stranger.
was. Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't like stranger danger.
Seriously.
No. So I just was like, hey, you don't really need that makeup. And then kept walking, and that
Boom,
was
sold.
Boom.
What a line.
She said, how can I get that guy's number? And yes, that was the first time. And then we spent a little bit more time. We happened to do an outing with a bunch of people later on that night together, and so we got to hang out a little bit there.
Nice.
And then a year later, like to the month, April 2013, April 2014, we said I do.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Liz and I were the same. We knew each other for about 13 months, I think, actually, before we got married. So you beat us.
So we win, yeah.
Yeah. Here's your trophy. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what prompted you guys to leave California?
So it was a lot of different things, work-related things, some personal things, some family things, just a lot of.
Sure.
It wasn't like one reason that said we're out of here. It was just a culmination of a bunch of reasons. But
Okay.
we one of the bigger reasons was we were just ready to get out of California. California, I mean, I grew up there, so that's all I knew.
Right.
But it was very busy. It was very busy in California. I mean, we had a 45-minute commute, which is a small commute compared to a lot of people in California. So, but 45 minutes one way, 45 minutes on the way back. That's an hour and a half. You do that every single day. I mean, that's like 7-8 hours out of your week that are gone. That's almost a whole working day.
Okay.
And so we were just ready to have some time back. We were going to move closer to her family. And so
La Grande, that's where
Oregon,
she grew up, right?
Yeah, and if you haven't heard of La Grande, which very few people have,
So 13,000
in case
people,
you
small
haven't
town.
heard, La Grande, Oregon is a town of 13,000 people. So we went from boom, Los Angeles, California, millions and millions of people to the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
13,000 people. So it was a huge change.
Yeah.
I felt like I was camping every day. We're out in a mountain town.
Were you actually, though? Because, I mean, that transition period, maybe you might have been camping.
It was a transition. I mean, my wife already had a job lined up before we even moved. So that was good.
But what was
did
she doing
not.
in La Grande for work?
She was a spiritual care provider. So
Okay.
she got there. She had already gotten hired and everything.
Nice.
She was going to start like a few days after we got there. So that was good. It took me 4 months to find work. Because going from Los Angeles, where I could have a job that day, because there's so many people hiring, there's so many job opportunities, to going to 13,000 people, La Grande, it was hard to find a job.
Oh, I bet.
So anyways, it took a little while, but I finally found one. I got one at a log mill.
Yeah, which is actually closed now.
It is.
Interestingly enough, were you
Yeah.
sad?
Oh yeah, it was
closed?
in Elgin, Oregon, where I think Liz is from.
Yeah, my wife is.
Yeah. So
Elgin,
that's
Oregon.
where. Yeah.
And Mallory's actually from Somerville, isn't she? Like, which is a smaller town outside of.
I mean, if you want to get
Elgin.
real technical, she was born in Indiana, so lived there for 10 years. Moved to Oregon.
Born in and grew up in two different things.
Okay. Well, she was 10. So where do you draw that line of growing up? She had like half her childhood in Indiana, half of it in Oregon.
10 to 18 are very formative years, my man.
So is 1 to 10.
Okay.
For all those mothers out there.
Yeah, right. So, okay, fair enough. You got a point. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that question's going to be decided today. But
Yeah. It was half and half. We'll call it even.
if you like this video, you like this format, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments, and we'll get more people on to share their story and how they ended up here. So you go from this huge town that, and really that was the sum of it. Because, I mean, most people are leaving California, at least in the context of this day and age. It's like, oh, the politics, Gavin Newsom, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That really wasn't on your mind as much.
No, because it was 2015 when we left. So it was like 5 years before the big one.
Yeah, still not so bad.
Yeah, so it wasn't even that bad. It was really just, it was just so busy.
Slower pace.
And we just were like, man, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Let's live a slower paced life. And I mean, we were gone, like with our work, we were gone 4 or 5 nights out of the week. Like every night. Like, how do you raise kids like that?
Yeah. And how old is your 6 years old, right? Or 5 years
So
old?
we didn't have any kids at the time, so we were able to do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back in time and realize.
Yeah, we didn't have any kids at the time. It was just me and Mallory.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When we left, we were basically laying the foundation for the future.
Uh-huh.
So we got out of California, moved to Oregon, was there for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, we had our first child, and she was born in 2018, and then 2020, I ended up getting another job in Boise. Actually, I actually bought a business, and so I was going down there all the time. I mean, 2 or 3 days a week. So I'd leave 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time Monday morning, and I'd be up to La Grande, Oregon at about 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. I'm sorry, I'd be up to Boise at 9 o'clock. So it was a 3-hour drive, but you lose an hour. So it was just like leaving super early in the morning. I'd stay in Airbnbs for a couple nights. I'd usually either come back up to La Grande on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. So,
Well, talk about that opportunity, because I mean, the contrast of going from California to that slower pace of life. Like initially, like were you guys like, man, I'm so grateful to be like in this tiny town. Like it's so much better.
oh yeah, it was so freeing. Like just be able to wake up and be like, man, I'm not having a huge commute. My commute is just 5 minutes.
Right.
Oh, that's nice.
But with that trade-off, obviously, like you said, it took a while to find a job because there's just less opportunities.
Yeah, there's less opportunities in a smaller town. So we eventually, and eventually what ended up me looking for another job was I actually transitioned out of that. I worked in the log mill for about 13 months. Then I got a job that was closer to home. The log mill is actually 30 minutes from home. So that was I was almost like the same commute, really.
Right, yeah. You just cover more ground.
And then you have the snow.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then that throws a wrench in it sometimes.
Yeah.
So I had that for 13 months. I just needed a job when I got there. But then I found another one, though, 13 months after I did that first job. And I was a marketing director.
Okay, yeah.
For an assisted living facility. And
Big
that
boy
was
job.
That was a 5-minute away job.
Nice.
So that was really that was nice. And then I was inside. I wasn't in the snow.
Yeah.
It was much nicer. So
Sure.
we got that job, and that was good. And then about 2.5 years after that, 3 years, something like that, was when I bought a business. In Anytime Fitness. So I became a franchisee.
Look at that hat. Look at that shirt.
Boom, boom.
Shameless plug.
Yep. For the Nampa Anytime Fitness. Come to that one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the other ones are good too, but I can only speak for the Nampa.
I will say, tangent here, you do run a really clean gym, all the stuff. Like,
Thank you.
It is, I really love your gym.
Yeah, you guys may not notice it, but Cameron actually goes to it occasionally.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
You can edit that out.
We're talking about you, Nate. All right. Let's keep the camera on you.
All right. The one time Cameron doesn't want to talk about himself.
That's awesome. So Too good. So you left LeGrand for basically. I mean, did it matter where the opportunity was, or
No,
like you
so
just
I
were
had
looking
bought
for
it.
a
Yeah,
opportunity?
so what had happened was we had we had our first daughter, and she had some medical issues. She's all good now, but Mallory, my wife, wasn't going to be able to go back to work, so she was going to have to be a stay-at-home mom, take care of our daughter for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And so I was going to need some more income. I was either going to need to get paid more, like by finding a different job or getting a promotion, or I was going to need to find some kind of secondary income. So that's what started me looking for a business. And I eventually found one down in Boise. And so I bought that business. And I was just going back and forth, as we mentioned. And eventually we decided, you know what, let's just move down there. It's really nice down there in Boise.
Yeah. Had you been before?
Yeah, we kind of like we go on like outings, like
Yeah.
hey, we're gonna do something cool this weekend. We're gonna go to Boise, and so we would go to Boise.
Boise, sir. Goodness
You know.
gracious, foreigner.
Boise.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Continue.
but we were going to one of those two towns, Boise, something like that.
Yeah.
And we were going over there. We'd spend the night. We would they have some cool stuff here. Like, I don't know if you've ever done the Anniversary Inn down in Boise, which is so cool. There's like a different themed room. Like you could do the Boise State University. So like everything is BSU gear. There's another room where it's like, a fairy tale. I don't know, whatever those princess things are. You think I have 3 kids.
And all girls.
And all girls.
You should know
I should
this,
know.
sir.
But they have like a Romeo and Juliet room. They have like the one that we always like is doing the old time Hollywood. So it's like decorated like a theater.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
And they've got this huge
Mallory
movie
didn't want the
theater.
BSU room? That's weird.
We did stay there one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did stay there one time.
I was being
They have-
sarcastic. She doesn't
well,
strike me as a BSU
She's
hardcore
not,
fan.
but she loves me.
There you go. You gotta
So
get one.
we got we went to the BSU room. Yeah, they have like a foosball table in your room you can play.
Oh, that's
they have
awesome.
like 19 different TVs, so you can watch all the college football. So it's really cool. Like if you're ever in Boise just for a visit, look up the
Check out
Anniversary
Anniversary
Inn.
Inn,
It's
yeah.
super cool.
And
No
it's
kids
like
allowed.
right there in
Yeah.
downtown and like
Yeah,
just
it's like
everything.
super
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, really cool.
Like walking distance. And so, and you're right by the Greenbelt, so you can just jump on the trails there and do the trails. You can, go to some coffee shops and such.
Ooh, yeah.
But yeah, it
Get
was
the full vibe.
Yeah, so we would go down there, and that was like our cool outing. Like, hey, we're gonna leave town. We're gonna leave small town, 13,000 people, LeGrand, and go to the big city. Which obviously we're from Los Angeles, so it wasn't the big city,
Right.
but it was still a big city. And like there was places to eat, and there was things to do.
Yeah.
And it was a really clean city. And like one of the things we would do, so when COVID happened, that we moved in 2020. So we went from Oregon to Idaho in 2020 in the midst of like this political, turmoil.
Yeah.
And we went from a blue state to a red state, politically speaking.
Yeah.
And it was so different.
Did that influence your decision at all, or was it just kind of like a happy
Yeah.
coincidence? Or
Yeah, I like freedom.
Oh well, yeah.
So,
But I mean, is,
not that it's
I feel like that early on, at least for me, I didn't realize how like polarizing COVID was going to end up becoming. It wasn't until like later in the year and like early 21 that I'm like, whoa, like the country is really taking sides here. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but we moved in July of 2020 to Boise. And so it was pretty cool. So I remember going there, and like my parents from California, like they visited in 2021, and they came up and we went out to dinner, and they're like, man, it's so nice to be in a restaurant again. Like in California, all the restaurants are shut down.
Yeah.
Like you can't sit down in a restaurant. And they've been shut down for months. Like this was
that's
like
crazy.
almost a year, I think it had been.
Yeah.
And so just to be able to go to a restaurant again, and that's the difference between like in that time, the difference between a blue state and a red state.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's going to find themselves on different sides of the aisle there, but
Sure.
like that was very influential. Like to be able to go to a free state, and I mean, free quotation marks.
Well, we had seriously, that's what it comes down to. You had freedoms to like. I thought it was so crazy, like watching the news of like Portland or like just literally cities like a day's drive away where it's like everything is locked down, almost like it's
yeah.
like a third world country or something.
Oh yeah.
And then we go out to a restaurant here and it's just like business as usual. Like
Yeah.
maybe a few people have masks on, but not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, and so it was so cool. It was neat. Like for instance, like I own a gym. Like we were
I know.
one of like in the COVID-19 era, like gyms were hit really hard, and we were kind of like almost like the forgotten people. Like I mean,
What a time to jump into the business.
So airlines and restaurants and all these got big government help. Whereas gyms were just kind of forgotten, even though we were shut down
How
as
long?
as some of those. So here's the thing. When we were in Boise, we had to shut down for like 7 weeks total.
Dang.
And so I just bought that gym in like October of 2019. And so we had to shut down for 7 weeks. I remember the exact day. It was like a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And we started work, and I was like kind of all intrepid because like Oregon had just shut everything down 2 days earlier. But I'm like, it's okay. We're in Idaho. We'll be okay.
Right.
Like they're not going to shut everything down. Like that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Sure enough, Wednesday comes along, and Governor Little gets up at 1:30 in the afternoon with a press conference, and he says, effective immediately, all businesses need to shut down. And that was the most disheartening news as a new business owner.
Seriously,
that
dude,
you
I
could
can't even
hear. Like,
imagine.
all of a sudden, boom, your business that you've worked so hard for, that you have done. I mean, I was leaving my family days every single week to go do this. And I was sacrificing a lot. And then for the government to step in and just say, nope, can't, you got to shut everything down. And, it was like looking back, I understand that people, we didn't really know everything,
Right. Right.
And so that's why it was, okay to shut everything down. But like bodies weren't lying on the streets.
Yeah.
And so it was,
Totally
I feel
insane.
like the cure for COVID-19 hurt worse than COVID-19. Like it hurt a lot of people.
We're still finding out. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. So, I mean, that's just where I stand. And I know other people see things differently. And
You're in
everyone's
good company,
entitled.
yeah.
Everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Right, for
But
sure.
for me, that was, it was very polarizing. And so we had to shut down for 7 weeks. In the anytime fitness industry, in the fitness space, I mean, there were gyms in California who were shut down for over a year. How in the world do you survive?
Yeah. How do you?
I mean, you've
pay
got
your
to
bills and-
pay rent. You've got to pay your vendors. You've got to pay all these things that don't stop just because you're not making money, just because you're not making revenue.
Yeah.
And so it was very painful for a lot of a lot of gyms, not just Anytime Fitness, but a lot of gyms had to shut down like completely.
Well, and I feel like I'm just thinking about the whole picture here. Like you found the news about your oldest child, like with the health thing, and you're like, okay, well, Mallory's going to be home. I need to make more money. I need to start a business. And I'm just seeing like in hindsight, like in church right now, we're going through the story of Jacob and how how like God's hand kind of, you could see God's hand throughout the
just
whole
leading
thing. And
him.
like his father-in-law Laban was screwing him over left and right, and he had no clue like how God's going to get him out of it. But ultimately he has God's promise. So like for you in this situation, like, that overarching theme is that God is always good.
Yeah.
So like how, obviously in hindsight, you can look back and see what God was orchestrating, but what was it like in the moment when you're like, I got to provide for these medical bills for my wife and my baby.
Yeah.
And then now the gym shut down. Like,
it was exactly as you think. It was.
Yeah.
It was the most stressful time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were so many times where, I mean, I hear about like panic attacks and like stress induced. I don't know. I guess they're called panic attacks.
Yeah.
But like where as soon as your mind, like sometimes you're able to like get your mind off of things and think about other things, but as soon as it goes back to the main thing, like how am I going to provide for my family? You get this sick feeling in your stomach.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a daily occurrence.
right.
I mean, there were times I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. And like somehow we were always like able to just barely make it. And so we just, I mean, there were things where there were times when I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to pay my employees next week. but somehow we'd end up making it. And there's lots of little stories where we made it, just boom, boom, boom. But you really had to, I mean, from a Christian perspective, you had to learn to live by faith.
Yeah.
And I remember there were some verses that I really thought and meditated on during that time, like in Matthew, where Matthew chapter 6, where Jesus is speaking and he says, you know, the birds of the field, they toil not, they gather not, they don't sow, they don't reap, they don't do anything. Like they're just like
doing whatever squirrels do.
Or doing whatever birds do, and then God still provides for them. And then God asks this very convicting question at the end. He says, "Are ye not much better than they?"
Yeah.
And the obvious answer is yes.
Yeah.
So look, I was facing thoughts of, what have I done? Like maybe I missed what God was trying to do in my life. Maybe I had moved in my own selfish ways. Maybe I'd made some mistakes, and God was, not punishing me, but like moving me, using these situations to move me to a different place. And it was going to be tough and it was going to be hard. I knew he would always take care of me, but I had those kind of thoughts.
Yeah.
But I had to remember, like the birds of the field, like they don't toil, they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
They just don't even think about where their next meal is going to come from. God just provides for them anyways.
Yeah.
And so I took those verses, and anytime I would just feel stress, like feel that sick feeling in my stomach, I would stop and I would repeat those verses until those feelings went away, until I got my mind on the fact that God was going to take care of me no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's just a side story.
I know, right? I mean, let's get back to real estate, but ultimately, God is good. Like that's just where, as you were telling that story, I was like, dang, dude, I'm like piecing the whole story together, and it's like, that would have been insane. Like I can't even imagine.
It was crazy. And so anyways, but we got through. We're doing so well right now. I mean, that was like...
He did just build like the coolest house ever, and we got done putting up the masonry.
That's right. Cameron...
I had put my stamp of craftsmanship on there.
I give Cameron a hard time sometimes about the gym, but honestly, he is a great friend. And I would not have been able to finish it without him.
Yeah.
So
it was a good time.
He came for the first part when we put up the flashing underneath the brick, and he came for the last part when we did the brick. So
yes.
But you know what? He came more often than any other friend did. So
sweet. I'll wear the badge.
So first place, Cameron Latula.
Right. So then having experienced both the small town, like the huge LA vibes and everything, like is Boise like the sweet spot for you guys? Like what do you see for your future, like in terms of, like, I guess for the person that's watching that is moving from a small town because they want more opportunity, or from the huge town city?
So
like what do you have to say about like your experience with both?
Boise is a great city. Like there's lots of things to do. It's really family oriented. There's so many things for families to do. Like, I mean, there's children's museums, there's jump parks, there's a zoo. There's all these different things that you can do with your kids, or as your kids get older. There's whitewater rafting. There's the Boise River that you can float down.
It's a good time.
There's biking. There's mountain biking trails. All the things that you would find in the PNW, the Pacific Northwest, you would find in Boise. I mean, Bogus Basin, if you like doing skiing, snowboarding, all that snow stuff. Yeah. Bogus Basin's 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
So that's super cool.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
There's hiking, there's camping, there's fishing, lots of fishing.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of stuff to do here, and it's like Los Angeles was cool too, because we're right next to the beach. We're 30 minutes from the beach. If you go the other way, you get into the San Bernardino Mountains, and you can go to some of the resorts up there. So we had like the best of both worlds. Boise's not as much that, but what you sacrifice in not having a beach, and that's really the only sacrifice. You don't have a beach right next door. You have so many other things, and you have more freedom. It's less crowded. You have more time. I think it's a good balance. Like, you never want to be overbalanced on one side or the other.
Yeah.
But I feel like Boise's a really good balance. If you haven't been to Boise, you should come. I think it's one of the cleanest cities I've been to. And it's really clean. It's governed really well. I mean, to a degree.
Yeah.
You may debate me on that. And I
Well,
mean,
what aspects of it are make you say like to a degree? Like what are the negatives you think?
yes, well, it's not South Dakota where they never shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
Like they just sort of like they just live life as if nothing had happened,
Yeah.
and everything seemed to work out just fine for them.
Yeah.
And then and as far it kind of depends on where you are on the aisle. If you're a little more, it's honestly it's a good balance. If you're kind of leaning toward the red side, where it's a red state, it's a very red state. If you kind of lean toward the blue state, Boise's a blue city.
Yeah.
And you know what they say? It's blue cities and red states are great cities to be a part of. And so, yeah, it still has a bit of flavor for each side. So if you like the red freedom, like that kind of thing, I don't know how else to say it.
Right.
Like very conservative. The state as a whole is very conservative. But if you lean more toward the left, Boise is gonna be you're gonna fit just right in.
Yeah. Do you guys ever see yourself leaving for one reason or another? I mean, you're the type of person though that I don't feel like, and I think I'm the same way too. That it's like I'm not as driven as much by like state policies and stuff. Now I will say like if all of a sudden it became illegal to homeschool in Idaho, I would be looking to move.
Yeah.
But like, there's very few things that's like going to cause me to up and leave or go chase somewhere else. I think you're kind of this.
Well,
similar.
I'm a conservative person,
right?
And so as long as Idaho stays conservative, I don't see myself leaving.
Do you see that changing though? Because I mean, in the last election, in Ada County was only 10% different from it was 45 or 55% red and 45% blue.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's like I don't know if the pendulum's swinging. I don't see the whole state happening, but for sure Ada County. So
I mean, we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't. I think we have some good governing policies as far as like California used to be a red state in the '80s, which was only 40 years ago.
Right.
That was
Not that long ago.
It was
at
a
all.
red state. Ronald Reagan was Republican, and he won in 84 and 88, or I could say, or 80 and 84, something like that.
I didn't study for the questions.
It's okay.
I'll take your word for it though.
In 80 and 84, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, in 84, it was like a landslide, like the biggest landslide ever for Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And he was a Republican.
That is interesting to think about. Yeah. I mean, really, 88, that's less than 40 years ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he governed, or he was the president from 80 to 88.
Oh,
so
I thought he got right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he started in 1981 and finished through the end of 88.
I'm exposing my ignorance here. I'm like, I don't know anything past 2010.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong too. I didn't study either.
Right.
But that's just what I have in my head.
Yeah.
So,
Very
but
interesting.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, 88, that was like 36 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too far removed from where we are now.
Yeah.
But a lot of things have changed in those last 36 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we could get into the ideology of it all.
Right.
I don't know if this is the podcast for it, but
Yeah, no, not necessarily. But I mean, ultimately, I feel like the main takeaway that I get from your story is like, and we talked about this or we were joking about it earlier today, but it's like you almost like was it Goldilocks? Like California, LA was too big, LeGrand was a bit too small, not enough opportunities, whereas Boise kind of just fit.
It's just right. Like there's like the things that I miss in Los Angeles, I miss like all the places to eat. I miss the beach.
Right.
Like those were good things. But in Boise, like we have 8th Street downtown. It's got great food. And while we don't have beaches, we've got a lot of beautiful lakes.
Yeah.
And so you still get the water. It's not a Pacific Ocean water, but it's still some good water.
We have less sharks in Idaho.
There's actually, quick fact, sharks are mostly in the Atlantic because of the warm water. In the Pacific, it's really cold. That's why you don't hear as
Your
much.
goal
of them.
is just to make me look stupid, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I don't want to give misinformation to the people watching this.
That's all right. Fair enough.
So
we'll take it.
The currents in the Pacific Ocean come from the Arctic, and the currents in the Atlantic Ocean come from the equator, which is why the Atlantic Ocean is warmer than the Pacific Ocean. And since sharks are cold-blooded animals, they like the warmer temperatures more than the cold temperatures.
I think I saw a Wild Kratts episode on that.
Oh, good. So you know all about it.
Wild Kratts. Okay.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Sorry. Yep. I have 5 kids, so.
Yeah, it shows.
Cool, dude. Well, hey, thanks for coming on and like sharing your story and everything. I think it's like seriously, like the main takeaway I get from it, like, is not really real estate related, but like, holy cow, praise God for that whole season of your life.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't even, because I met you kind of at the tail end of that. I think, like, officially.
I don't know how we met. How did we meet?
Liz and Mallory have a mutual friend,
Rachel.
Rachel,
Who's gonna be here this week.
and we're gonna hang out.
She's gonna spend the night at our house.
Yeah. But not we, but the ladies are going to hang out and we're going to play ping pong.
I hope so.
But
Yeah.
anyway.
Cameron beat me pretty soundly last time. Like by 2 points every single game.
And he keeps ducking me.
I know.
But we'll probably cut all that out. But yeah, dude, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, like sharing your story and everything and how you guys ended up here.